Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, 10th of August. I've got some more parcels out here in the reading nook, along with a nice hot cup of tea. So, just catching up with these. I've already opened this one, so I'm going to go on to the next, which is this, and that should give a clue as to who it's from. So this is another packet of fanzines or old school Renaissance content. So yeah, let's see if I can get the knife in. There we go. So, open up, and what we've got is the invoice, don't need to see that, and 3 little packets, because essentially these are all from Echoes of Fomalhaut, Gabor Lux, who does the Echoes of Fomalhaut fanzine, and when he packets these up, he puts each individual item into their own envelope and then stills it into one big envelope, which is great. So, let's have a look. Yeah, let's do this one. So, another application of the knife. And what we have is this, or rather this. This is what you've got here is a map. Now he puts up maps of in with the fanzine. They're really nice inclusion. So essentially you have a map of the city of Vultures, which is one of the settings he has been developing over the course of the fanzine. So this is a player's map, so they can amend it as they like. I almost don't want them to be honest, because this is on such lovely, nice paper. And then we have a C map on the reverse. So again, useful content. And then we have the fanzine itself. Now this is issue 6, the Gallery of Rising Tombs. Now, basically, Gabor is from Hungary and is producing about 8 issues of the fanzine so far. And this, basically, this is, and then basically, originally, the content he's producing is obviously for the Hungarian D20 Society, but he's translating a lot of it into English and making it available. It's getting a little more expensive to get hold of these days because. Here we go. I've got this second printing there, and that number indicates how many. So this fanzine you're holding right now holds one of the reasons Echoes from Fomalhaut came to be. City adventures have always held a political fascination for me. City of Thieves, Ankara, Katit, City of or Car. I think it's Karsk, City Port of Traps, City State of the Invincible Overlord, and Jakala. Jakala obviously being in Solianu, in the Empire of the Petal Throne. So as I said, we've got a map of the City of Vultures, and Gabor expressing his love of cities. So we've got a city description in here. First, we've got an adventure module for levels 4 to 6, the Wandering Blade. Now these fanzines are fairly tightly packed, so you get quite a lot of content in here. Quite tightly packed stats across there. The description before we get into an area map of the Wandering Glade itself. And then we have a nice illustration. Again, these are all generally sort of like pieces taken from public domain, but then well chosen, well selected. Again, simple map, nice and clear. The Druid Grove. So that runs to about less than half the adventure, basically about 10 pages or so before we go into description of the City of Vultures itself. The City of Vultures has been mentioned in previous issues in the fanzine, but the world itself has not been fully developed. But here we go straight into it, and it says in memoriam M.A. Barker, so there's lots of inspiration there. So this is going to be quite an arcane or arch-knowing sort of setting, I would term, since gods, and we've got a sense of the feeling of it, where from the illustrations we have a Middle Eastern, basically, or I would suggest possibly a Turkish influence on the look and feel of the city, and that's no surprise given the connection to basically the history of Hungary. But again, illustrations there again, this is very Middle Europe sort of looking, rather than necessarily the fantasy of essentially of either really the US, or which is to be honest is more Ren fair than the traditional fantasy that we get in the Western Europe. Now, which is, you know, basically just how it is, and you know, if you've looked at any Warhammer, basically you can tell the fantasy is British in tone because, for example, there's a sense of sort of like basically a mythic quality to it, combined with a sense of, oh, we stepped outside, the roads aren't paved, and then we're going to get mud and whatnot on our shoes, if we're lucky to be wearing shoes. So there's the GM's map, and again, so the tone of that, I think, will be a combination of the two, sort of like that grounded in history, but a history that is not that of Western Europe. And that's always, I mean, that's always fun and interesting. It's something that the basically the Kobold publishing team did with their setting to Zobrek, I believe, which I really quite enjoyed. And then we do go beyond the City of Vultures, and we were looking to the coast, and that's covered on the rear side of that map I showed you earlier. So the Sea of Croetus, and then after that we've got a second adventure module. So now this is the Gallery of the Rising Tomb, which is the eponymous scenario of the title. And it's located in the city itself, so you've got an actual city adventure as well as a wilderness adventure. Here you've got individual maps here. They're a little rougher, but that's fine. And then I've got another excerpt from the map, the full map. Again, temple location, reminiscent again of M.A.R. Barker's Tegamo Empire Battle Throne. But again, but sort of basically Gabor's own sort of like Hungarian influence upon it, rather than directly taking it from M.A.R. Barker. So we've got complete description of the temple and its various levels there. Right down to depths. So yeah, really just very little. I mean, basically, there's just basically, let's just check. Yeah, there's only. I mean, I think this is a list. Lastly, we've got a separate listing with something called the Armory. I don't know whether it's associated. I don't think it is. So, but yeah, it's separate. So 42 pages, and you've got 4 things in there. really three things, because essentially the armory is just a couple of pages, but the four lengthy pieces of content. You basically complete city description and 2 adventures, 1 wilderness, 1 city. So you actually get quite a lot of gaming content in there. It's really nicely focused, I think, and essentially. So I look forward to digging into that when I next do a round of reviews for the Fanzine Focus. So yeah, I mean, essentially, you is with this series essentially that Gabba has been developing the setting as a sort of almost like a part work, building it bit by bit. But the thing is, essentially, you've got to remember that it's actually dealing with sort of like multiple settings and within the previous issues. And I think one of the things with this with the fanzine I found is sort of like it's difficult to kind of essentially you're not quite sure whether you're dealing with one setting or multiple settings, and is multiple settings, whether or not you feel they should be all together. No, they shouldn't. And there's no real sort of necessarily an overview of each of the different settings to really differentiate them. And I think that's possibly one thing that is missing from the fanzines to date. Nevertheless, I do like the fanzines. They've been good reads. They've always been interesting. The scenarios themselves have been enjoyable, whether it's a simple dungeon bash or wilderness adventure and so on. So that is Echoes of Fomalhaut issue 6, The Gallery of Rising Tombs, with the city of vultures fully detailed in its pages. Thoroughly recommend that. Basically, the fanzines themselves, basically these days, have really become successful vehicles for authors to develop their own and present their own content, and do so in a fairly professional degree standard these days. Anyway, thank you for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please click the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I look forward to reading those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me with some parcels, something for me to talk about for 10 minutes or so, and of course, a nice hot cup of tea, then please hit the subscribe button down below. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.